Imagine walking through a quiet Boston street on a chilly March evening. The cobblestone paths are slick with the remnants of rain, the streetlights reflecting off the wet stones. Nestled between brick townhouses and modern buildings is a grand palace of art, the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. From the outside, it might look like a relic of another time, a romantic throwback to Venice, with its arched windows, ivy-covered walls, and ornate balconies. But inside lies a world that few have truly seen. This museum is not just a building, it is the lifeblood of one woman's extraordinary vision. Isabella Stewart Gardner was no ordinary collector. Born in 1840 into a wealthy family in Boston, she traveled the world with a voracious appetite for beauty, history, and culture. She was a woman ahead of her time, independent, sharp-witted, and unapologetically eccentric. While many of her contemporaries built collections in stuffy, conventional galleries, Isabella crafted a living, breathing experience. Every room of the museum reflects her personality, vibrant, eclectic, and slightly whimsical. She mixed Flemish masters with Asian ceramics, Venetian glass with Renaissance portraits, creating juxtapositions that challenged conventional ideas of art display. The museum, which she personally oversaw the construction of, was designed as a palazzo, a Venetian-style palace in the heart of Boston. Each detail was meticulously planned, down to the arrangement of paintings and sculptures. Light from the high, arched windows filters through the galleries, casting shadows that make the figures in the paintings almost alive. Walking through the halls, one feels as though Isabella herself might appear around the corner, guiding visitors to a hidden masterpiece or whispering a story about the brushstroke on a canvas. Her collection was staggering. It included works by Rembrandt, Vermeer, Manet, Degas, and dozens of other old masters. There were tapestries, ancient sculptures, rare manuscripts, and delicate Chinese porcelains. Each piece had a story, a provenance, a connection to history. The centerpiece of the collection was not just the art itself, but the intimate, almost theatrical way it was displayed. Empty spaces were as important as filled ones. Isabella believed that art should breathe, that every object should speak. Today, visitors walk past the very frames she hung with care, some still waiting for the stolen masterpieces to return. But why was this museum such a tempting target? The answer lies not just in the value of the art, though by 1990 the collection was worth an estimated $500 million, but in the museum's security. Unlike modern museums with laser sensors, motion detectors, and CCTV cameras in every corner, the Gardner Museum relied on a skeleton crew of night guards and basic alarms. The doors were heavy, but not impervious. The windows were tall, ornate, and elegant, but for someone who knew the layout, they were points of access. Despite the security measures, the museum had an air of intimacy. Guards often became familiar with the rhythms of the building, believing that familiarity ensured safety. They knew the floors, the rooms, the hidden alcoves. They had no reason to suspect that one night, two men disguised as Boston police officers would walk through the front door and within the span of 81 minutes execute a crime that would echo through history. Isabella Stewart Gardner herself had died in 1924, leaving the museum in the care of a board of trustees who vowed to preserve her vision. She had explicitly stated that nothing could ever be sold, moved, or altered. Her will was clear. The collection was to remain intact forever. That very insistence, paradoxically, may have contributed to the audacity of the heist. The artworks were locked in a space that could not be touched, moved, or auctioned, making them priceless not only for their artistry, but for their untouchable status. In the early hours of March 18, 1990, the museum stood silent under the cold Boston sky, the paintings reflecting dim lamplight as if whispering a premonition of what was to come. The grandeur, the history, the stories, all of it was about to be stolen, not by force, but by deception, precision, and audacity. What happened that night would become the largest unsolved art theft in American history, a heist so calculated that even seasoned investigators were left bewildered. And it began almost innocuously with a knock at the door. The night of March 17, 1990, had fallen quietly over Boston. The streets were slick with melting snow and ice, the faint traffic drifting along the narrow avenues. At the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, the vast halls were silent. Only the low murmur of the security guards' footsteps echoed across the polished floors. Each painting seemed to wait in patient anticipation, their subjects frozen in time, unaware of the storm about to sweep through their sanctuary.
It was just after 1:30 a.m. when the first knock came at the front door. Two men stood in the shadows outside, dressed as uniformed Boston police officers. Their badges glinted faintly under the dim light, convincing in a way that would fool anyone. They claimed there had been a disturbance nearby and needed to check inside. The museum security guard, 25-year-old Rick Abath, a young man eager to do his job correctly but inexperienced in facing the extraordinary, complied. After all, what harm could come from allowing the police inside? Once inside, the two men revealed that they were not just police. They were orchestrators of one of the most audacious crimes in history. Within minutes, the guard was restrained, blindfolded, and led to a nearby closet, entirely unaware of the scale of what was about to happen. For the next 81 minutes, the museum would become a playground of chaos, cunning, and meticulous planning. The thieves moved quickly and methodically. They knew exactly which pieces they wanted. Rembrandt's The Storm on the Sea of Galilee, Vermeer's The Concert, Manet's Chez Tortoni, and dozens of other masterpieces were ripped from their frames with precision tools. Each piece was carefully rolled or folded to avoid damage, then carried to the exit. They weren't reckless. They treated the art with respect, as if they understood that the value lay not only in money, but in history itself. Some pieces were simply too large to roll, like the massive Chinese vases and delicate sculptures. These were carefully lifted, their bases padded with cloths and blankets scavenged from the museum itself. The thieves avoided unnecessary noise, their movements choreographed as though rehearsed countless times. Meanwhile, the clock ticked. 1:45, 1:50, 2 a.m. Security systems remained silent. There were no alarms, no cameras to record them. The museum's outdated security, once thought sufficient, was now completely inadequate against the cunning of these intruders. As the heist progressed, the thieves occasionally paused to ensure their path was clear. The museum, built for beauty, had hidden corridors and stairwells that allowed them to move with surprising stealth. They even stopped to check the guard, ensuring he remained restrained and unaware of the outside world. By 2:11 a.m., the heist was essentially complete. 13 pieces of art, worth an estimated $500 million, had vanished. The empty frames hung silently on the walls, like hollow eyes staring out at the world. The thieves left as quietly as they had arrived, slipping into the night and disappearing into Boston's maze of streets, leaving behind a crime scene that would baffle investigators for decades. What made this heist truly remarkable was not just the value of the stolen works, but the utter precision and audacity. No shot was fired, no one was injured. It was a clean theft, in a world where crime is often messy, loud, and easily traced. And yet it would haunt the city and the nation, becoming a story of fascination, speculation, and endless theories. By the time the guard was freed and called for help, the reality of what had occurred was dawning. The authorities arrived, surveyed the empty frames, and realized the enormity of the crime. This was no ordinary burglary. It was a carefully planned, almost surgical removal of history itself. In the weeks and months that followed, investigators pieced together the timeline, reconstructed the crime scene, and interrogated every lead. Yet despite their efforts, the thieves seemed to vanish into thin air. The stolen art remained missing, its fate a mystery, its value incalculable, and its story, for the first time in history, now a legend. The audacity of this crime raises almost as many questions as it answers. How did the thieves know exactly what to take? Were they insiders? Were they professional criminals with connections to organized crime? And most tantalizing of all, where is the art now? The empty frames still hang in the Gardner Museum today, a haunting reminder of that March night. Visitors, unaware of the full story, walk past them, their eyes drawn to the voids where masterpieces once resided. And though decades have passed, the question lingers: will these works ever return to the light? Or have they been lost forever, hidden in some secret corner of the world? The morning of March 18, 1990 arrived with a crisp Boston chill. But inside the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, the air was thick with disbelief. The museum staff had spent the previous hours processing the unimaginable. 13 priceless works of art had been stolen, their frames hanging empty, like gaping wounds in history. For the first time, the enormity of the crime became clear, not just in dollars, but in cultural loss.
The Boston Police Department was the first to respond. Officers cordoned off the museum, carefully documenting every detail of the crime scene. The initial investigation focused on basic facts. When had the thieves arrived? How had they bypassed security? And who could have known the museum's layout? Security footage was not existent. Alarms had been circumvented. And the only witness, Rick Abbott, the young night guard, had been restrained and blindfolded throughout the ordeal. His testimony, though detailed, could only provide partial insight. The intruders had been meticulous, professional, and ghost-like in their execution. Within hours, the FBI was called in. Art theft is a federal crime, and the scope of this heist demanded resources beyond local law enforcement. Agents combed the museum for clues, fingerprints, shoe prints, fibers, anything that might identify the perpetrators. But the scene was frustratingly sterile. The thieves had taken care not to leave obvious traces, and the tools they used had been removed. Even small details, like the placement of ladders or the way paintings were rolled, hinted at careful planning, suggesting experience and foreknowledge. Investigators faced a critical challenge. The stolen art had no serial numbers. Unlike cars or electronics, paintings and sculptures cannot be tracked through standard databases. Each piece had historical records, provenance documents, and photographs. But once removed, the works were effectively invisible in a world without a centralized tracking system for stolen art. The FBI created an internal database, cross-referencing auction houses, private collectors, and international art markets, but decades would pass with no confirmed sightings. Early leads focused on local crime syndicates. Boston had a well-documented history of organized crime, and investigators considered the possibility of a Mafia connection. Tips came from informants claiming that the heist had been planned for months, and that the stolen art might be used as collateral in criminal dealings. However, these leads rarely produced tangible results. The complexity of the crime and the sheer value of the pieces suggested that the thieves either had connections to powerful networks or extraordinary skill and audacity. Among the initial investigative steps, authorities analyzed the thieves' methods. They noted the use of police disguises, which indicated knowledge of law enforcement procedures. They examined the selection of stolen pieces, recognizing a clear pattern. The art chosen was not random, but highly valuable and transportable, signaling someone who understood art markets and the cultural significance of the works. Investigators debated whether the heist was financially motivated or a more sinister attempt to control cultural artifacts, perhaps as a ransom or trade commodity. Despite extensive interviews and surveillance of known criminal elements, the investigation quickly stalled. No suspects were definitively linked to the crime. Witnesses offered inconsistent accounts. Tips led to dead ends, and forensic evidence proved inconclusive. The museum's security measures, designed decades earlier for a different era, had been inadequate against the thieves' cunning. As weeks turned into months, investigators pursued every possible lead. They explored international connections, suspecting the stolen art could cross borders into private collections, especially given Boston's port access. Interpol and foreign agencies were contacted, and the FBI issued bulletins to museums, auction houses, and collectors worldwide. Yet, the trail remained cold. By the end of the first year, it became painfully clear the Gardner heist was unlike any other. The perpetrators had vanished without a trace, leaving investigators frustrated and the public captivated by a growing media storm. One of the most haunting aspects of the investigation was the empty frames. Unlike many stolen works, which are quickly fenced or sold, these paintings were never offered publicly. Their disappearance posed a psychological puzzle as much as a logistical one. Why would thieves invest enormous effort in a high-risk heist only to leave their spoils hidden? Was the art destroyed, hoarded, or held as collateral in secret dealings? The mystery deepened with each passing year. Over time, the investigation evolved. The FBI established a dedicated task force, incorporating modern techniques such as criminal profiling, forensic accounting, and later, digital databases of stolen art. Specialists in art history were consulted to understand the cultural value of the pieces and potential black market pathways. Yet, despite these efforts, the crime defied resolution. The Gardner heist became a case study in audacity and meticulous planning, a blueprint for how a single, well-executed act could confound even the most advanced investigative methods of the era.
And so, the case became more than a crime. It became a legend. Law enforcement faced a conundrum. Every clue seemed to lead nowhere. Every tip raised more questions than it answered. The stolen masterpieces, frozen in history yet alive in imagination, became symbols of human cunning and ambition. The empty frames, silent and stark, spoke volumes about the audacity of the theft, the sophistication of the criminals, and the unresolved questions that would haunt investigators for decades. The investigation into the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum heist is still active today. Tips continue to trickle in, some credible, others clearly hoaxes. The FBI maintains the case as one of its highest priority art theft investigations, with a reward, now $20 million, for information leading to the recovery of the stolen works. Yet, as the years pass, the case seems as insoluble as ever. The thieves, the art, and the full story of that night remain shrouded in mystery, leaving a nation to wonder, who stole $500 million of history, and why has it never resurfaced? As investigators delve deeper into the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum heist, one truth became painfully clear. This was no ordinary burglary. The planning, precision, and knowledge required suggested involvement far beyond amateur criminals. Almost immediately, suspicion fell on organized crime, insiders, and even the broader Boston underworld. But who exactly might have orchestrated a theft so audacious, and why had no one come forward with credible information for decades? The Boston mob connection.
Boston in the late 19th century was notorious for its organized crime families, particularly the Winter Hill Gang and its associates. Led by infamous figures like Whitey Bulger, the gang controlled a vast network of criminal enterprises, from racketeering and extortion to gambling and drug trafficking. Law enforcement quickly considered the possibility that the heist could be a mob job. The argument was compelling. The Winter Hill Gang had the resources, connections, and muscle to pull off such a high-stakes theft. They knew how to avoid law enforcement, how to fence stolen goods, and how to plan crimes with meticulous precision. Investigators speculated that stolen art could be used as collateral in organized crime deals, traded for drugs, weapons, or even held as a long-term investment. Art, after all, is portable wealth that rarely depreciates. Yet, despite the plausibility of a mob connection, no concrete evidence ever linked the Winter Hill Gang or any Boston criminal organization to the Gardner heist. Informants came forward with tantalizing tips, claiming to have inside knowledge, but every lead fizzled. Some claimed the paintings had been hidden in a warehouse, while others suggested the thieves were professional outsiders unaffiliated with local gangs. The inside job theory focuses on insiders, museum employees, or individuals familiar with security routines. Pulling off a theft of this magnitude without inside knowledge would have been extraordinarily difficult. The thieves knew the precise location of the most valuable pieces, the schedule of the security guard, and the layout of the building. This level of detail pointed to someone with intimate access to the museum, either currently employed or recently terminated. Several employees came under scrutiny in the early days of the investigation. Some had personal histories that suggested possible motives, while others had simply been in the wrong place at the wrong time. Investigators explored every conceivable angle, but again, evidence was sparse. The museum staff were cooperative, but no one admitted or could be proven to have had direct involvement. Professional art thieves and art experts. Some investigators suspected that the heist was carried out by professional art thieves, possibly even individuals with prior experience in high-value thefts. The methodical removal of paintings, careful handling of sculptures, and knowledge of art valuation suggested someone who understood the market. This theory gained traction as investigators realized that the stolen works had never appeared in auctions or private collections, a sign that the thieves were not ordinary criminals seeking a quick profit. Experts in art crime pointed out the audacity of removing such iconic pieces. Rembrandt's The Storm on the Sea of Galilee alone would be instantly recognizable, impossible to sell on the open market. The idea that these works were intended for private collectors, hidden in secret vaults, or used as bargaining chips in criminal enterprises became increasingly credible. The Whitey Bulger angle.
Whitey Bulger, Boston's infamous crime boss, emerged as a suspect in popular speculation. Bulger's gang had the capability to execute such a heist and disappear, and his criminal empire often dealt with high-stakes deals. Some theorists suggest that the stolen art may have been used as a bargaining tool or stored by associates for years. However, despite intense investigation, no definitive evidence ever tied Bulger or his associates directly to the Gardner heist. Interviews with law enforcement, former associates, and journalists revealed tantalizing hints, but nothing concrete. Still, Bulger's name became inextricably linked to the story, reinforcing the narrative of Boston's criminal underworld intersecting with one of the most significant art thefts in history. Theories about the fate of the art. The question that has haunted investigators, museum staff, and the public is simple. Where is the art? Dozens of theories have emerged over the decades, hidden in plain sight. Some believe the paintings may have been stashed in a warehouse or hidden inside a building that has since been abandoned or destroyed. Private collector hoard. Others speculate that a wealthy collector may have acquired the works illegally and kept them in secret, unwilling to risk exposure. Destroyed or damaged. A darker theory suggests that the stolen pieces may have been damaged or destroyed in storage, lost forever due to negligence or malice. Used as collateral. Given the involvement of organized crime, the stolen art may have been used as collateral in criminal dealings, passing through numerous hands over the years. Despite these theories, no verified sightings of the stolen works have emerged. The FBI continues to receive tips and occasionally investigates leads, but each one seems to fade into dead ends. Public fascination and media attention. The combination of audacity, mystery, and unsolved intrigue has captured the public imagination. Books, documentaries, and podcasts have explored every facet of the heist, from the meticulous planning to the bizarre empty frames still hanging in the museum. The story has become a cultural touchstone, symbolizing both the allure of art and the cunning of human ambition. Each new theory, whether plausible or far-fetched, keeps the story alive. From mob connections to secret hoards, insiders to professional thieves, the Gardner heist is not just a crime, it is a riddle, a puzzle, and a legend. And yet, for all the speculation, the truth remains elusive. No one knows for sure who stole the art, why they did it, or where the masterpieces are now. The heist is a testament to audacity, skill, and the enduring human fascination with what is hidden, what is lost, and what may one day be found. Decades have passed since the night of March 18, 1990, yet the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum still bears the scars of that audacious heist. Walk through its halls today, and the first thing that strikes visitors is the emptiness. The empty frames where masterpieces once hung, suspended like ghostly reminders of what was lost. These frames are more than placeholders. They are symbols of mystery, loss, and an unresolved crime that continues to haunt the museum, Boston, and the world. The museum's response to the theft has been both practical and symbolic. The empty frames remain exactly where Isabella Stewart Gardner herself placed them. Her will forbade the replacement of stolen pieces or the alteration of the collection, insisting that it remain exactly as she intended. In leaving the frames empty, the museum honors her vision while keeping the public aware of the magnitude of the loss. Each frame tells a silent story, challenging visitors to imagine the masterpieces that once filled them. Beyond symbolism, the museum has actively sought to recover the stolen art. From the outset, it offered rewards for information, reaching out to law enforcement, art experts, collectors, and the general public. Over the years, these rewards have grown to $5 million, then $10 million, and today, the FBI and museum jointly offer $20 million for any information leading to the recovery of the stolen works. Investigators hope that such incentives may finally coax a secretive holder of the art into coming forward. The cultural impact of the Gardner heist extends far beyond the museum's walls. The theft has become a defining narrative in American art history, illustrating the vulnerabilities of cultural institutions, the sophistication of organized crime, and the enduring allure of unsolved mysteries. Documentaries, books, podcasts, and investigative journalism have explored every facet of the story, each adding new details, theories, and speculation. The case is studied not only by law enforcement, but by criminologists, art historians, and students of human behavior.
Yet, despite all efforts, the case remains unresolved. The stolen art has never resurfaced publicly, and the thieves, whether they are now deceased, imprisoned, or living in obscurity, have never been apprehended. The mystery itself has become part of the artwork's story. Scholars and journalists speculate endlessly, wondering if the pieces were destroyed, hidden in secret collections, or traded silently through shadowy networks. The FBI continues to treat the Gardner heist as one of its highest priority art theft investigations. Special agents maintain a dedicated task force, reviewing old leads, analyzing new tips, and using modern technology to track possible movements of stolen artwork. Advances in digital imaging, Forensic science and global tracking databases provide hope that one day the pieces may be recovered. Even so, the thieves demonstrated such cunning and preparation that investigators face an uphill battle. The story of the Gardner heist also resonates on a deeply human level. It is a story of ambition, audacity, and obsession. The thieves demonstrated meticulous planning and daring execution, while Isabella Stewart Gardner's vision reminds us of the power of one individual to preserve and celebrate human creativity. The empty frames serve as a metaphor for loss and hope, a visual reminder that even in the absence of certainty, beauty, history, and culture endure. For the museum staff, the heist is both a burden and a motivation. They maintain the collection as Isabella intended, educating the public about the stolen works and fostering appreciation for what remains. Special exhibitions and lectures explore not only the theft, but the broader significance of the museum's collection. Visitors are invited to imagine the lost pieces, to engage with the mystery, and to participate in a story that has spanned generations. The Gardner heist has also inspired other museums and cultural institutions to reconsider security and preservation. Modern museums now employ advanced surveillance, motion sensors, alarm systems, and secure databases. Yet the audacity of the 1990 theft serves as a cautionary tale. No system is foolproof, and human ingenuity, whether for good or ill, can challenge even the best defenses. Ultimately, the legacy of the Gardner heist is twofold: a profound loss for the art world, and a captivating mystery that continues to engage the public imagination. The empty frames remain, silent yet eloquent, daring future generations to uncover the truth. They are a reminder that history, beauty, and crime are often intertwined in ways that are both thrilling and tragic. Even today, as investigators pursue new leads and the public speculates endlessly, the question persists: will the stolen art ever return to its rightful place? Or will the greatest unsolved art heist in American history remain just that, a story of brilliance, audacity, and enduring mystery? Over 30 years have passed since the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum heist, yet the story refuses to fade. In a world transformed by technology, digital communication, and global connectivity, the search for the stolen masterpieces has adapted, but the case remains one of the most perplexing art theft mysteries in history. The FBI never closed the case. Even today, a dedicated task force monitors tips, interviews informants, and pursues leads around the globe. Agents periodically re-examine evidence using modern forensic techniques that were unavailable in 1990. Fingerprints, fibers, and other trace evidence collected at the scene are continually analyzed using improved scientific methods, including DNA testing, hoping that a breakthrough might finally identify the thieves or those who possess the art. Investigators also leverage global databases that track stolen art and monitor auction houses, galleries, and private collections. Every year, new leads emerge, sometimes credible, sometimes clearly hoaxes. The museum and the FBI maintain a $20 million reward, the largest in the history of art theft, as an incentive for anyone with knowledge of the art's whereabouts. Yet, despite these efforts, none of the masterpieces have resurfaced publicly. Speculation about where the stolen pieces might be hidden continues to fascinate experts and enthusiasts alike. Some theorists suggest that the paintings may be stashed in a private home or safe, passed down quietly among wealthy collectors who dare not reveal their possession. Others believe the works may have left the United States entirely, transported overseas to a secretive art market, or even stored in underground vaults, waiting for the right moment to resurface.
Another possibility is that the art was used as collateral in criminal dealings. Given the historical ties of Boston's organized crime, some believe the stolen works could have been held as bargaining chips in illicit transactions, moving silently between underworld networks, never appearing publicly, and never leaving a trace. In recent years, technology has transformed the field of art recovery.
Digital imaging, blockchain tracking, and sophisticated databases allow museums and law enforcement to monitor suspicious activity worldwide. Artificial intelligence can analyze auction catalogs, online listings, and private sales for clues, while forensic experts can detect signs of tampering, authenticity, or provenance manipulation. The Gardner Museum and its investigators have begun using these tools to re-examine every lead from the past 3 decades. Even social media has become a resource. Online forums, collector networks, and private groups sometimes provide unexpected tips. Every image posted online is a potential lead, every auction catalog a clue. The hope is that modern tools may eventually outsmart the cunning thieves or their successors, who executed a heist in 1990 that seemed impossible to match. Recent developments. Over the years, several tantalizing leads have emerged. Anonymous tips have suggested specific locations, from abandoned warehouses in Boston to hidden storage units in other states. Occasionally, stolen items turn up, though none have yet been verified as belonging to the Gardner collection. Law enforcement occasionally conducts raids, seizes items, or interviews suspects, only to find that the trail has gone cold. Experts continue to warn that the art may never resurface publicly. Some of the pieces are so well known that selling them openly is virtually impossible. This has led to speculation that the stolen works may be hidden away in secret collections, perhaps never to be seen again. Others hold out hope, believing that one day, whether through negotiation, confession, or accident, the masterpieces will return. The Gardner heist continues to captivate the public imagination. Documentaries, podcasts, and books examine every detail, while enthusiasts debate theories online. The museum itself engages the public with educational programs and exhibits, keeping the story alive for new generations. Visitors see the empty frames and are asked to imagine the masterpieces that once filled them, fostering a sense of connection and curiosity. In a way, the ongoing mystery has become part of the art itself. The theft has immortalized the Gardner collection, not just as a series of priceless works, but as a narrative, a story of audacity, intrigue, and enduring human fascination with the unknown. Each empty frame hangs as a symbol of potential, loss, and the possibility of discovery. Even today, the question remains, where are the stolen works? Will they ever return to the museum, filling the empty frames and restoring the collection to Isabella Stewart Gardner's vision? Or are they forever lost, hidden in shadowy corners of the world, known only to those who dared to take them? The Gardner heist serves as a chilling reminder of the fragility of cultural treasures, the audacity of human ambition, and the power of mystery to endure. It is a story that spans decades, one that continues to intrigue, inspire, and challenge those who seek answers. And while time marches on, the empty frames at the museum wait patiently, silent witnesses to history, daring the world to solve the greatest art theft in American history.